2020. Who would ever think that this would be a time of such civil unrest? It seems as though every day a new video surfaces that shows how unjustly human beings are treated because of the color of their skin. In the times of our ancestors, there were no videos being uploaded to media outlets. What was it like in their time? What untold abuse did they have to endure? While there may not be any video evidence, we have the stories of our grandparents. This is Life in Black and White. We sat down with Orangeburg locals, Willie and Evelyn Hubbard. Roseville native Evelyn Hubbard shares her experiences as a young black girl living in a white world.
Black children had to walk to school, and the whites rode the bus, and of course they would come by, ride by us, and throw things out of the bus, and we were walking along the road, they'd splash water. So, not a good experience, but being small children, we just kind of accepted it at that time and didn't nothing about it because we knew we figured we'd get into a whole lot of trouble that we didn't need any more of. So basically that's what we experienced, and right now looking back it was horrible.
We traveled to Roseville, South Carolina to visit the farm on which her family lived and worked.
Actually, this is the area that I grew up. The area that I was actually born in a house that was probably about 300 feet from here that's no longer standing, but we lived on the farm of the owners of this house. They were Funches. Funches was the last name. Herbert was the daddy. There was a Maynard and William Funches were his sons. And we grew up around here. In fact, my dad did sharecropping for this group of people, and we worked in the fields here. All summer picking cotton, doing, gathering peanuts, pecans, everything that's done on a farm, it was done here. And there was I guess I can say a little story that the lady that lived there said to my mom, sisters, brothers. She wanted me to come and work in the house, not go in the field, because I was a little browner than the other children. So she said she didn't want me in the sun. Let me come and work in the house with her. Of course, we did that for a little while, but not long. But it was not a bad experience for us because we didn't know any better. But my mom always wanted to leave from this farm. She was not satisfied, and she couldn't get my dad to move from here for a long, long time. Eventually, we did leave. But it was a nice experience for children. We walked these roads, getting on the bus. These are highways or byways that in fact, they were dirt roads, and the school bus would ride, as I said before, they ride past us and take the little white children. And we had to walk in the rain. It didn't matter, but we walked to school, and the whites rode the bus. So there were cows roaming all around, a big farm with horses and things this young man owned. So thinking back, I guess it was okay, but I wouldn't want my children or grandchildren to have to live this kind of life. I'm glad we grew out of it.
Orangeburg native Willie Hubbard shares his experiences with discrimination and being a part of a mixed family when it was not accepted or tolerated. We were able to visit his family homes as they are still standing in Orangeburg, South Carolina.
This is a house that me, my brother, and my sister was raised I stayed in this house until I went into the 9th grade at Wilkinson High School. And it was only had 4 rooms to it. My mom and dad slept in one room. Me, my brother, and my sister slept in one room. And there was one room we called the living room. That's where the TV was. We were one of the fortunate people in the community that had a TV in the house. And that was the living room, and then the other room was the plain old kitchen, which is what where we spent our daylight times in all the time.
Willie took us to the burial site of his grandma Sarah's father. He was a white man who was disowned by the white community for his involvement with a black woman.
She was also mixed race, okay, let's put it like this. And his family put him out of the family. So he didn't have any place to be buried. And if you look over to the big tree with the light green leaves and the green line, he is buried right under that tree. They would not bury him in a white cemetery or anything like that. So they permitted him to be buried. My grandfather permitted him to be buried out here under that tree. When my sister graduated from college, she got a job in Florida teaching down there. And one Christmas Eve weekend, or Christmas week, me and my brother-in-law and another young man, I can't think his name right now, we were going to Florida to pick her up to come back home for Christmas. And we were going through a little community, a little town called Jessup in Ludwissa, Georgia. And I was driving at that particular time, you know, and what was I was just in about the 10th grade, I think, but I had a legal driver's license. And the lights, the red lights, there were red lights back then, came on behind me, pulled over on the side. And two of them, big, tall jokers, came out of the car. One was on one side, the other was on the other side. And he said, you know, you're speeding. And the guy looked at me and says, okay, that'll be $50 now. Get him out of jail in the morning. And naturally, you know, my brother-in-law didn't want me to stay in jail. I didn't want to stay in jail down there. And so they gave him the $50, and I didn't feel like driving anymore on that trip.
The Hubbards have been married for 59 years. Living on Gough Avenue placed them in the midst of the Orangeburg Massacre, as their home sits between the campuses of South Carolina State and Claflin. They shared their story of that tragic event.
I remember the date vividly. It happened like, I think, February 8th, 1968 or something like that.
68 was right.
68. And that was a night that, a weekend night that I will never ever forget. We stay so close to the campus, and we could hear all of the things going on there. In fact, the student that got killed, that was a student at Orangeburg Wilkinson High School, was there when I was working. I remember that day he wanted to go on the campus, and our principal, Robert E. Howard, told him, Delano, don't go on the campus, you all stay home. But his mother worked up there, so he, of course, did not obey, and he went on that campus that day, and he was maybe getting a little ahead of the story, but he was one of the guys that got killed.
They had National Guardsmen all around perimeter around South Carolina State and Claflin University. And right down half a block from here, there's an entrance to State College where they had National Guardsmen and the vehicles and everything parked out there to monitor who was going in and out of the campus. The police, the National Guardsmen, had rifles and all kind of stuff like that. You know, they were fully dressed like they were in a war or something. Yeah, they were ready to do whatever they can do.
The kids went to the bowling alley, and that's when the protest started, because at the bowling alley they wouldn't allow black students to use the bowling alley.
Blacks, period.
So, well, blacks, period, but the students were the ones that really wanted to go because they needed an outlet. So, of course, they went down and they came back, and a few of them heard about what had happened, and that's how they gathered. The campus students got together immediately, both Claflin and South Carolina State. They gathered at the front of the campus, and that's when the cops met them at the gate. They were on the campus, not at the bowling alley. They were at the front of the campus, and they came up there and started actually trying to make them stay there. And that's how the rioting started. Like Willie said, they were fully loaded with rifles, and students had nothing. But I understand they were throwing maybe rocks or something because the cops were out there and they were throwing rocks at them. But as far as weapons, they had nothing.
Though we have come a long way, we still have a long way to go. This is life in black and white.
Ways to go from where we are. It's been a long road, a wrong and right. That's the life in black and white. That's the life in black and white. That's the life in black.